Hi world. We are the intellectual descendants of Batman and Robin, right. And today we are going to discuss with you a problem that exists out there. Well, it existed in Gotham City way back in the day, but they seem to have fixed this problem.
They're trying to fix it, but since Chicago's been in the news, just consider Chicago's Gotham City, as we were talking about.
Right. And this problem has been expanded across the United States, not just in Chicago, but it seems to be in every major city, where there seems to be a polarization where people make a political polarization out of the issue of crime.
Well, you've got the right and the left, as they are called, but we like to think we want to distinguish. We want to sane from insane. We want to distinguish intellectually honest from dishonest. We want to cut out the confusion caused by people that want to just use it as a political issue, right?
On one side we have an extreme, on the other side we have an extreme. Okay, we have an extreme on the far left that wants to hate cops and wants to defund the cops, and then on the other side you have an extreme that thinks all cops are wonderful and it's okay for cops to beat on people.
It's a matter of contrast, and it's a matter of using a balance in how you look at things.
The two extremes are both wrong. Okay?
Right.
We need to come to some common sense in the center. Okay? Right. Now, here in Chicago, there seems to be a political division, a polarization between okay, we're gonna use the names of the parties, the Democratic Party on one side, the Republican Party on the other side, and there seems to be this notion that if you are a Democrat, then you must be for letting criminals out of jail, and you must be okay with bad judges letting them back out only to commit crimes again, and if you're a Republican, you must be okay with letting the cops do whatever, including what happened to, like, say, for example, George Floyd.
Or the guy in Memphis that was beaten.
Now, if I like to call myself a progressive, a realist progressive, but that doesn't mean that I'm okay with being carjacked, or having a gun pointed in my face, or having my home invaded. What else would you not like to have done to you as a progressive? Are you a progressive?
Well, I'm a realist progressive.
A realist, yes. A humanitarian.
Sometimes we use the term humanitarian when this went back to the Reagan days when a lot of us discussed that. But the thing is that, as Batman, you rightly point out, you can't go to the extreme on either side. You have to have a common sense, critical viewpoint, a logical viewpoint of how to handle these things. Nobody wants to have a gun put against their head in our secret identities where we don't have these costumes on. People just...
As crime fighters,
us. Yeah, but
we first and foremost do not want people running around carjacking people, and sometimes...
Well, if we see that happening, we have to step in and stop it. That's our duty. But
and sometimes escalating into the murder of somebody. We do not ever want to see that.
Well, we don't want to see that happen. We never use lethal weapons, of course. If you can just put all a batarang and you can take care of the guy if it's just one guy. But basically, this has to stop, this coddling of criminals. In the sense, what some of these judges do.
Even if you're a Democrat, even if you're a progressive, even if you're a liberal, you must be against crime. And to many of the progressives on the far left like to keep harping on the 1960s and 1950s when we had J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI and Fred Hampton, what happened to him, and John Birch, what happened in the 80s or the 70s. They keep harping back to that as though all the cops of today are a carbon copy of that. What we were primarily trying to get at is the real problem is not so much who is the mayor and not so much who is the police superintendent. The real problem is that we've got all these deadbeat judges who just happen to mostly run under the banner of the Democratic Party, letting criminals out of jail. And we have, well, I think his name was Timothy Let Him Out Evans, is the chief judge in Chicago. And his bench, he's got a bench of deadbeat judges that continually let criminals back out onto the streets, only to see them either shoot somebody, kill somebody, carjack somebody, rob somebody. Again,
there's a terrible problem with
judges,
criminals that have shown a tendency to violence or have repeatedly committed crimes, that the judges let them off lightly. And it's only some judges. And yes, you pointed out this guy, he's the one that...
And then there's the prosecutor, Kim Fox, who is stepping down finally, but she came up with some really ridiculous new ways of doing things, in the sense that she made it so that you have to steal so much before I'll press charges. Oh, so it's okay to just go and rob whoever as long as it's under this certain amount. Was it under 500 or 2,000 or something?
That was terrible. And a similar thing.
Well, the thing is some of those robbers are violent robbers with guns.
Well,
I mean,
the crime really shouldn't be tolerated. Yes, there's probably a minimum value. I mean, if someone just steals a loaf of bread shoplifting, and they're caught, yes, you should.
If it's a violent crime,
about it,
if it's a violent crime, you need to deal with it.
It's not.
You need to shut the
well,
door.
There are people that have
slam the door shut if it's a violent crime.
There are people who have been guilty of violent crimes that have been let off, and you pointed out Tim Evans. He let the guy go that actually ended up killing Ms. French, the
police officer, Ella French, beautiful woman.
And she was killed by this guy, and he was out apparently on a monitor. But what we have is...
And then we had a second one just recently. I can't remember the Hispanic cop's name, but he was a Hispanic man. I'm just saying, if you remember his name. His killer should have been locked up too. So that's 2 Chicago police officers that were killed just because some deadbeat judge let him out. Now we have a problem of where judges really shouldn't run under any political party, because what happens is when they do run as, say, a Democrat, okay, then you get a lot of people that will vote red, Republican, just for that issue, because the judges ran, and they like to blame the crime issue, because it's like they say, oh, you keep voting for Democrats, that's what you're going to get. Well, it shouldn't be that. Judges should not be affiliated with either party. They shouldn't have to run as, what did you say, a merit system?
Well, there's been an organization in the Chicago area. I don't know how many cities and states have a similar IVI-IPO, which for a long time was in favor of merit selection of judges. Now, that's a problem with each jurisdiction, that it might come up as an idea, but voting for judges is a bad idea, because for one thing, people don't usually have enough news in their head and remember the names of judges, so they can get rid of a person like Tim Evans, who shouldn't be a judge anymore. And regardless of the label, and of course, the label Democrat or Republican, I mean,
liberal or
there are
conservative.
some Democratic judges that believe, as we do, that violent criminals need to be locked up.
Right.
And there are some Republican judges that might let someone go. It might be a percentage difference, but the problem is the track record of the judges should be looked at by experts. And IVI-IPO, I think, was always on the opinion that the experts should get a list of judges, and they should be then appointed, not elected.
Well, now that is a couple of things that we pointed out that we have noticed and come to the realization that might make things work a little better. Another problem with the crime issue right now is the way police are doing things. They're doing things the same way they've been doing for years, and it doesn't seem to be working. You and me have come up with this idea of modernizing police departments, similar to what some police departments have already done. The Mokina police caught 2 fugitives with a drone, and I believe it was Hillside or Naperville, one of the western suburbs, started using this special kind of dart gun. where if they don't get into hot pursuit, flying 100 miles an hour, and then the end result many times is that an innocent person gets run over in the process, or the car smashes into a house, or whatever. Some innocent person becomes a victim because the criminal and the cops chasing them shouldn't be chasing 100 miles an hour. Okay, so the dart gun that they use in the suburb, it fires onto the fleeing car, and it puts a GPS device onto the car. So they turn their lights off, they turn their sirens off, and they wait until he goes to where he's going without hot pursuit. The guy stops speeding because he doesn't see any lights behind him. And then they get him later on with just cops, no civilians standing around. Totally makes sense. Now, why can't the Chicago police do that? Why can't they create a new like a drone force where that's all they specialize in, is watching drones? They sit in the office, and instead of chasing somebody, or even when a guy is fleeing and the cops, let's say, can't run fast enough to catch him, the drone will follow him. You know what I mean? A drone force where automatically the cops press a button. They say we're in 14th district. So automatically 14th district has a drone in that district that goes off automatically and goes to exactly where they are through global positioning. And that drone automatically goes into motion. What do you think of that? Why can't they do that?
Batman, we've discussed this over the years, and scientific advances have taken place where police, if they really want to get a handle on things, they need to really advance to
technology.
The best technology.
Right.
Now, drones is one thing that's been obvious for quite a while. That 100-mile-an-hour speed chases is just crazy. It's cops and robbers, basically.
Yeah.
They just don't want to admit that they could do a better job.
And sometimes it turns out into a shootout.
And what happens is, as you pointed out, somebody gets killed or maimed, and there's a giant lawsuit.
Yeah.
And what, $20 million
right.
is down the drain.
Right.
Just like that.
Right.
The Chicago Police Department, and by extension the people, have to pay for their stupidity. It would be better to take those dollars and put them, as Brandon Johnson, the new mayor, has pointed out, to detective work.
Oh, right.
To solve those crimes.
Right.
And some of those detectives might go on the drone.
I might add that we need more high-tech cops and less street cops.
Let's use the DNA technology and everything like that.
We need Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson is correct that now I don't know if he'll be able to do it, but we should hire 200 new detectives because we need more detectives. Well, because one other thing to add to this is that since the 80s, maybe even the 70s, there's a long list of unsolved murders, mostly women of color, that have not been solved here in Chicago. Now, if you want those solved, we need to get guys that are high-tech detectives. We need them.
You get guys, get them up to speed. If they need to take a class, go back to college.
Yeah.
I mean, criminology.
And I think the cops need more school and training. Yeah. I think you and me, we've had our training from
we get it from books, we get it from the internet, we get you, and you're an inventor yourself with all the stuff you come up with for your utility belt and that.
Right.
But the thing is, you've got to use smart policing.
Right.
And of course, police also have to be less brutal.
Hiring more cops is not going to solve the problem. You need to give them better tools and better technologies and newer strategies, which means they have to learn newer strategies.
Absolutely, get up to speed with the best scientific forensics.
Do you ever notice
smarter is better? Smarter is always better.
Do you ever notice when you turn on the news and you hear of a murder, there's like 60 cops standing around talking? Do we really need that many cops?
They had over 100 cops there.
Yeah.
And because of lack of courage, nobody went in. So
right.
You could also add that. Police have to, when it comes to the point, they have to really bear down and do their duty. But yes, an extra 100 cops that just stand around and do nothing is just crazy.
After the fact. After the crime has been committed.
At that point, it was after the fact. But
now, if we had more high-tech cops in place, and also one more thing is we also need maybe some more sergeants to be managers, which is I think the sergeants are the managers, to make sure that they don't bust down the doors and kill a woman like Breonna Taylor, You know,
You need some oversight in that respect.
and the same goes for the 5 black cops in Memphis that thought it was.
Where was their oversight exactly?
Right. And this is why I'm not against having cameras on street corners, because we wouldn't have known what happened there had not been for the street cameras.
Unfortunately, there probably is going to need to be more cameras, and they have to be stitched together.
And they got to have
What we really should do is there should be like a private public partnership in these things.
You would think.
Where there are safeguards and the public is involved.
That makes
making
sense.
Sure there are no malfeasance in regards to like people using tapes unlawfully.
That makes
when there's
sense.
no probable cause.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
Yeah. And all cops should have their body cam on.
Cams must be on.
And they should
because
be,
of the abuses of just a handful of cops.
They should be fined and suspended if they don't have them on. Simple as that.
Well, of course.
And
it's even worse than that. I mean, if they don't have them on, the defense can say this and that and the other thing, and possibly the criminal will get off.
And we could move on to the other subject that is forever attached to this subject, and that is that these cops that don't want to enforce the new laws that are being imposed by Governor Pritzker and possibly by President Biden, to make it harder to acquire guns, to make it harder to so that we could have common sense gun rules. Now you and me, we are a supporter of the Second Amendment, correct? But the Second Amendment did not say that you have the right to own.
The Second Amendment is very vague, and it actually refers to a militia.
Right. And it
the
said
Supreme Court said that you could have a firearm, meaning a handgun, really.
Well, in the
possibly a
days it was
rifle,
a musket,
to defend
which takes 5 minutes to reload.
Well, we don't have to go back that far.